Hello, old gun guy here. Welcome to my video on the Colt Trooper 357 Magnum Revolver and the 357 Magnum cartridge. I'm going to go into a little bit of history of the revolver, its uses, and the history of the cartridge, followed by some shooting tests. Do the chronograph. I'm going to test two ammunitions. 38 special reload, which basically duplicates factory reloading, 158 grain lead semi-wad cutter, and Remington 125 grain jacketed saw point 357 Magnum. After the chronograph, I'll do a recoil comparison between 22 Ruger Mark II pistol and the 357 close up. Next I'll follow up an energy comparison, shooting some 8-inch steel plates hanging from rubber straps. The 22, 357, show you a comparison there. Then I'll have a terminal effect target, water jug, 3/4 inch piece of plywood, simulate bone. Water jug behind it, hopefully capture the projectile. And finally, an accuracy test. I'll fire one target with the 38 special ammunition, another target with the 357 ammunition, and see if there's a shift of impact. And in the chronograph, I also have a Marlin 18-inch barrel carbine. I'll fire the 357 Magnum ammunition out of that for a velocity comparison with the 357 4-inch revolver. So that should be interesting. Well, let's get into it. I'm talking about this is a revolver. It's a 4-inch barrel Colt Mark III Trooper. Colt Trooper Mark III. Alright, this particular one was made in 1973. Alright, the Colt Troopers were made from 53 to 69, the first version. Then they did a bunch of improvements. They came out with the Mark III. 69 to 82 this was made. It was made in 4-inch, 6-inch, and 8-inch barrel lengths. Nickel, this example's nickel, very nice nickel, and blue, they're Colt blue finish. It's a 6-shot revolver. They incorporate a lot of modern features. The firing system in this is copied to this day in most modern revolvers. I'll go into that in a minute. Came in 4 calibers, 22 long rifle, 22 Magnum, 38 special, and 357 Magnum. Obviously, a 357 Magnum can fire 38 specials and 357 Magnum. The 38 special is the parent of the 357 Magnum. I'll go into that when I talk about the cartridge. Has nice walnut grips, Colt medallion. I don't know if it comes up on camera. All right. The entire cylinder is recessed for the heads of the cartridges. That comes on camera there. Smith did that early on in just the chambers, but the Colt, the entire cylinder is recessed. It's a double action, single action revolver, and it was the first revolver to incorporate a transfer bar system. So what that means is, you cock the hammer, there's no firing pin. Firing pin's in the frame, and there's a metal bar that slides up and down and prevents hammer contacting the firing pin without the trigger being pressed. Double action or single action. Okay, that was a safety feature to prevent the theoretical possibility that actually did happen. If you drop this revolver onto a hard surface, or any revolver, and the sear broke, it landed on the hammer, it could strike, the firing pin could strike the cartridge, and you have an unintentional discharge. For comparison, I have a Smith & Wesson Model 15. Obviously, it's cleared. This is a 15-2. You can see the firing pin on the hammer. It's possible for this one, if you dropped it the right way and it struck the hammer and it was loaded, you could get a discharge. Colt did away with that. They're engineers, and all modern revolvers to this date carry that design feature. The Colt Revolver, the release is on the left side of the frame. It's this protrusion here. You pull it back, pull it to the rear to unlock the cylinder and open the firearm. As opposed to the Smith has this button. You push it forward to open the cylinder. The other two differences between revolvers is looking from the rear of the Smith & Wesson, the cylinder revolves counterclockwise. On the Colts, the cylinder turns clockwise. That's the other difference. They call this a J-frame, the Colt company. It's probably slightly beefier than a Smith & Wesson K-frame. It's a really well-made revolver. It came with a solid rib and adjustable sights. The downgraded version of this was called a Lawman. It had no ribs and it had fixed sights, more for like a patrolman to carry. The primary use of this is obviously could be a target pistol, but it's a defensive pistol, a handgun designed to protect persons. Law enforcement and police departments carry revolvers. And most of the entire 20th century, up until late 1980s, I personally carried a revolver the first year on the job. We had to buy our own firearms in our agency, and we were only allowed the .38 special revolver. I carried a Smith & Wesson Model 64, 4-inch stainless steel. The Lawman was marketed at a lot of state police agencies. They carried the .357 version. Some departments carried .357 Magnums and loaded them with .38 special ammunition. But the .357 is highly effective terminal ballistics against human adversaries. Can also be employed with the right bullets and the right loads in handgun hunting. Obviously, target shooting, plinking. This makes an excellent little backpack gun if you're on the trail and you got, say, mountain lion or coyote or wolves, even black bear, with the right loads. Heavy bullet, well-constructed hunting bullet, 180 grain, 170 grain, deeply penetrating. The cartridge, the .357 Magnum was introduced in 1935. The parent of it was the .38 Special, which was introduced anywhere from 1898 to 1899, the advent of smokeless powder. The grandparent is the .38 Short Colt, .38 Long Colt. They were black powder cartridges. .38 Long Colt was black powder. It was a U.S. military cartridge from 1892 until 1911, when the 45 ACP was adopted. It had very poor ballistic performance. So with the advent of smokeless powder, Smith & Wesson lengthened the case so it couldn't chamber in the older Colt revolvers, and it was loaded with smokeless powder at higher pressure. .38 Special runs at about 17,000 pounds per square inch chamber pressure. With the plus P loading, which came out much later, at 20,000 pounds max chamber pressure. Too much for the black powder guns. The .38 Special soldiered on to the mid 1930s, 1935. I believe it was Elmer Keith. Pushed to develop the cartridge. And Smith & Wesson came out with it as a competitor to the Colt's .38 Super, which is a 1911 platform pistol, semi-automatic pistol. And the .357 Magnum was again lengthened, so it wouldn't fit in a .38 Special chamber because it operates at twice the chamber pressure, 35,000 pounds per square inch max chamber pressure. And these are the two cartridges side by side. You see this .357 Magnum with the jacket on is slightly longer. To demonstrate the one-way convertibility, I have a .38 Special Smith & Wesson revolver here. I'll drop the .357 into the chamber. I don't know if you can see that, but it sticks out about a tenth of an inch. You'll never be able to close the chamber, the cylinder, I mean. So that's the that was the main feature of that. The 357 Magnum as it came out in the middle of the Great Depression. It had a few customers. No one had money. And it didn't really achieve popularity until the 1950s, and it took off. And millions of revolvers have been made in 357 Magnum to this day. It's a fine defensive handgun cartridge. If you should walk into a gun store and find one of these in a used case, and you can pick it up for a good price, it's a very fine firearm. I enjoy shooting this Trooper. It's a good old piece of American craftsmanship. 51 years old. Like I said, it was this one. The corner serial number was made in 1973 on the Colt database. The versatility of the 357. Obviously, you can fire the low-powered 38 special loads in it. You can carry defensive loads for humans. Jacketed hollow points. Jacketed soft points actually good on predators if you're hiking or you're backpacking. You get a coyote or you get a wolf or a mountain lion. You get pretty good penetration with the soft point. They do expand, but not as much as the hollow point. It's also a very handy carbine cartridge. A lot of lever action rifles and other rifles have been made in 357 Magnum chambering. So going back to the old cowboy days where they like to have a handgun and their lever gun in the same caliber. When fired out of a longer barrel, 16, 18-inch barrel, 257 Magnum achieves a lot more velocity and a lot more energy. 500-600 feet a second more than what's available in the 4-inch barrel. Or if you had a 6-inch barrel, you get a little more velocity. With that, that's my intro. I'm going to go through the shooting regimes, and then I'll come back for the summary. I will have the camera on the chronograph so you can see the actual shots yourself. I also have this ancient Supervel ammunition from the 70s. It's a 110 grain pointed projectile. We'll throw one onto a chronograph just to see how it shoots. This is some classic spear from the same era, the 70s. But what we're going to go with today is the Remington 357 Mag, 125 grain jacketed soft point, and go outside and shoot. And we're back. On the table I have several ammunitions that we're going to test on the chronograph. The Colt Trooper will fire first, and each ammunition I'll fire out of this Marlin 357 lever action carbine. This is one of the Marlins made by Remington after the hedge fund company ruined it. Fortunately, it functions well. So it's got an 18-inch barrel. We'll see the velocity difference there. I'm going to shoot some Remington UMC 125 grain jacketed soft point. I don't have any commercial 38 special ammunition, so I have my reloads, and they're loaded to standard factory spec. 158 grain lead semi-wad cutter, and I can give you the reloading date. It was reloaded 3 years ago, 2021. And for old time's sake, I had this ancient Supervel police ammunition. It's from the 70s. I've had it for years. I haven't shot it in a while. Basically, it looks like that on a 10 crane pointed projectile. We'll see what the velocity of that is. This used to be the hot ammunition for police departments many decades ago. I thought it appropriate since we're firing a 1973 made revolver that would be good to fire some classic ammunition. I'll take it off the tripod and give you a close-up. Basically, these are two firearms: the Colt Trooper and the Marlin for comparison. So I'll first go with the 38 special, fire 2 shots out of the Trapper and then 2 shots out of the Marlin, see if there's any velocity difference. And then we'll do the same for the Remington 357 Magnum 125 grain jacketed soft point, and the Supervel police ammo, the 110 grain projectile, and I'll record the velocities and see what we should see. Let me set this up on the chronograph so we can record the data. Okay, we're set up on the chronograph. I decided to do this just a bit differently. I'm gonna shoot the Trooper with the 38 Special, 2 shots, followed by the 125 grain jacketed soft point 357 Magnum rounds, followed by a Supervel round, and then I'll repeat it with the rifle and record the velocity differences. First up, the 38 Special, and this is the ammunition, 158 grain lead semi-watt cutter. That's 836. That's 850. That's typical for that load in a 38 Special loading. Now for 2 125 grain jacketed soft point Remington 357 Magnums. And that's a pretty hot loading for factory ammo, 1569, and that's a velocity difference. It's almost double with the Magnum. And we're gonna, full time's sake, going to try a Supervel round and see how it does in comparison. I'm only going to fire 1 and see what this does. And that's, for all of its hype, it's I don't know if it's due to the age, but it's loaded a lot less hot than the Remington. So let's go to the rifle now for the rifle velocities. Okay, now 2 shots with the 38 reloads from the Marlin. Now 2 rounds with the Remington 125 grain jacketed soft point. That's what the projectiles look like. Okay, we can see a marked velocity difference between the handgun, 1550 range, the 357 Magnum 125 jacketed assault point, and when fired at a rifle barrel, you're picking up a whole lot more velocity and energy. 2150, that's a substantial difference. 500-600 feet a second. And pistol projectiles propelled that fast tend to have a devastating wounding effect. You should not, if you're going to go hunting with a 357, choose a heavy for caliber bullet, 170, 180 grain, designed for hunting game. And I would restrict my shots with the rifle to no more than 75 yards with the 357 Magnum. But it goes to show you, it's an extremely useful cartridge. Go to a relative comparative recoil test. I used the 22 pistol. That'll be next, close up, and then the 357 Magnum Remington ammunition. Fired one hand close up at the camera to see the relative recoil between the two rounds. And then I'll go up to the steel. I have the steel plates, and we'll do the same thing, 22 and the 357, just to see how much they impact the steel plate, the energy difference. And those will be the next two tests. Okay, we're back. Next up, a comparison, recoil comparison between the two firearms. This is a base. It's a Ruger Mark II 1022, 40 grain, 22 caliber long rifle projectiles will fire 2 shots at close up at the camera, and then 2 with the Trooper, the 357 Magnum Remington loads, 125 grain jacket assault point. So first up, make sure I got the pistol in the frame, and that's it. Relatively non-existent recoil. And now the Trooper. And a little bit more recoil, not unmanageable, but there you have it. So that'll be our recoil comparison. The 357 Magnum 4-inch Trooper. We're back. This is another energy comparison. I'm going to shoot the 22 long rifle at the center plate and the 357 Magnum with the plate on the right. So first up will be the 22 from about 7 yards or 8 yards, and then the 357 Magnum. Plates are the same size. They're, I believe they're 8-inch. Yeah, 8-inch plates. Zoom it in a little bit. All right, first up, 22 center plate. That was 2 shots, and the plate movement is noted. Now the Magnum on the right plate. And I think that that demonstrates the power of the 357 Magnum. Okay, we're back. I set up my terminal effect target here. Make sure we get all this on camera. Okay, set up my terminal effect target. I'll show you in a second. I got a water jug in front, 6 inches of water, a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, a virgin piece. 1, 2, 3, 4 water jugs. I got a piece of 2x8 at the back here. And this is a half shot up water jug that just to hold it in place. I'll give you a close up of that, and then we'll shoot it with the Colt Trooper. There we go. So that'll be the terminal effect target. I'll try and drill it in the middle, and hopefully we catch the projectile. but it should show the terminal effect of a 357 Magnum round doing 1,550 feet a second or so. 125 grain jacketed soft point. It will not expand as greatly as a hollow point would, but it's a good secondary choice, especially if you're backpacking, using it as a trail gun. You're going to go against like a mountain lion or coyotes in the area, or even black bear. You can defend yourself with it, as we shall see here. So let me put this back on a tripod, adjust the camera, and we'll set it up for the test. Get it, the camera out of harm's way here. All right, I'm going to go back about 10 yards and line this up. Okay, it looks like it went through 5 of the water jugs and the plywood. There's the shot through the plywood. The first jug is vaporized. It drilled through all these other jugs. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's in this 5th jug. And it actually bounced off the 2x6, 2x8. Now let me stop this, clean this up, and be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm gonna drain the water out of this 5th jug and get the projectile out of there. It split the 2nd jug too, only to here though it actually. There's the recovered projectile. You see the deformation, 125 grain jacketed soft point. They do expand, but not as big as hollow points. If I had enough water, I could probably repeat this with a hollow point. I'll see what I can do. But that's our terminal effect test for the 357 Magnum. Okay, we're back. This test here, I'm just going to do a offhand accuracy test. I'm going to go back about 20 yards. I'm going to shoot the top center dot with the 38 special load, 158 grain lead semi-wad cutter projectile, doing about 850 feet a second. And the bottom, what I'm going to shoot with the Remington 125 grain jacketed soft point, doing 1,550 feet a second. That is Colt Trooper 4-inch barrel. Let me set the camera a little closer on the target so you can watch the shots. And first up is the 38 special. Okay, that was the 38 special. This is the aiming point. This is the group. So. The group ain't too bad. The point of impact is 2 inches or more higher. And that's the 357 Magnum. And they're both printed decent. I could have probably did it the tighter group, but wasn't acceptable for 20 yards. And we'll go back in for the summary. Okay, welcome back for our summary. First up was the chronograph. We chronographed 2 ammunition, which basically this hand load. It's a 38 special lead semi-wad cutter. Pretty popular bullet in 38. And the Remington 125 grain jacketed saw point, expanding bullet, but not, like I said earlier, not to the degree of a hollow point. And as for comparison, 38 special and 357 Magnum cases. You see the difference in length. These are the 2 ammunitions. The load data for the 38 special, 158 grain lead semi-wide cutter. A bit of Vittori 320 powder, 4.8 grains, CCI primer, and the other one was the factory Remington load. Okay, chronograph results. I have them here. Okay, 38 special. Colt Trooper, the average velocity was 843 feet a second, and the energy came out to 249 energy foot-pounds. Pretty standard. When we fired out of the Marlin, the 1894, an 18-inch barrel, the velocity jumped up about 175 feet a second to 1,025, and the energy also increased to 369. The 357 Magnum, 125 grain jacketed saw point Remington. The Colt Trooper, the velocity was averaged 1564, and the energy translates to 679 foot-pounds. That's a whole lot more energy than the 38 special, and twice the velocity. The Supervel was a bust, really. It wasn't really a super. 1,259 feet a second, and 387 was the energy figure, energy foot-pounds. When fired out of the Marlin, there's a big jump in velocity, 2,159 feet a second average. That translates to 1,293 foot-pounds of energy. That's a lot more energy. So, as you can see, with the proper bullets and a proper loading, the 357 carbine suitable for deer. I wouldn't go beyond 75 yards, and in the handgun, 40 or 50 yards. But the 357 Magnum operates at twice the pressure and achieves pretty much, even though it's a lighter projectile, twice the velocity almost. And we went to a recoil comparison between the 22, the Ruger Mark II 22 long rifle, non-existent basically when you shoot it up close on the camera, and the 357 Trooper, 2 shots, the 125 grain Magnum loads. It has some recoil, but it's not terrifying or unmanageable. We then went to the steel plates comparison, energy imparted. I believe they're 1/2 inch, 3/8 inch. I believe they're 8 inches in diameter. 8 inches in diameter. I got to really measure them, going by my eye. The 22 obviously just puts very little energy on the target, and the 357 Magnum load makes the plates jump around. Then we went to a terminal effects target. 6-inch water jug, 3/4 inch piece of plywood, poor man's ballistic target there, and 4 more water jugs behind it, and then it had a 2x6 behind the last water jug, just to hope to capture the projectile, which we did. It blew up the first water jug, punched the hole clean through the plywood, which I have over here. Entrance right there, and that was the exit. That's after going through 6 inches of water. And then it traversed the next 4 jugs. It went completely through the 4th jug, except that it was just about out of energy. It tapped the 2x6 and knocked it over, but the projectile remained in the jug. And I recovered it, and I'll stick them in a case because maybe it'll stay there better. It's easier to hold. You can see the whole thing. And that's the deformation. That's the slug. It expanded. I do not have my calipers with me here. I had to take a quick measurement here. Yeah, probably 42 caliber, something like that. But that's an effective slug there. So terminal effect, you see 357 has a lot of energy there compared to some of the other handgun cartridges I've done, the 22 and the 380. Far superior. The accuracy target, 20 yards. Firing offhand, I used the 38 special loads. I shot them first. This was the aiming point on both targets. The 38 special printed a little higher. I think I threw that one, but this was about 2 inches high. The 357, I'd have to attribute this to me, but that's what I was aiming, and that was also a little high. And like I said, it has adjustable sights. Both groups are very acceptable. Offhand, 20 yards, they get the job done, no matter what you're shooting at. A bad guy or a critter looking to take a chunk out of you. So what can we be said about this gun? If you should inherit such a firearm, it makes a fine home defense weapon. You can carry this concealed, but you have to have the right clothing and the right holster. It's a little bit bigger. It's more of a duty size gun for a police officer, originally. But you can carry this concealed if this is what you like. With the revolver, I only carried one for a year on the job as my primary weapon, because obviously we just transitioned to 9mm, and the 9mm has the advantage of more ammunition capacity and a lot faster reloads. With the revolver, you get 6 shots that are pretty much all going to go off every time you pull the trigger. You don't have to worry about a jam or a misfeed with a revolver, generally, as long as you're using factory ammunition. Even with practice and using a speed loader such as this, reloading automatic is, hands down a lot faster. So that's why the revolvers kind of went by the wayside, starting in the late 1980s, and pretty much the mid 1990s, most of the departments had switched over to semi-automatic pistols of various calibers. But the 357 is a good old soldier here, and very useful and very versatile. And like I said, you can go handgun hunt with it, obviously target shooting or recreational shooting, personal protection, home defense, extremely effective. It's got a long track record of effectively stopping fights with bad guys. Like I said, there's reasons why people stop fighting, some psychological, some physiological, but this does impart a lot of terminal energy on the intended bad guy. So with that, that'll be it for our 357 Magnum cartridge and Colt Trooper revolver. This is Old Gun Guy signing off. Good night.